Today's video is all about math, specifically fractions. We're talking about how to do fractions with your kids. I have something for even the youngest ones all the way up to the older ones, depending on what age you are at in this video. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. Hey you guys, it's Christina from the Purple Alphabet. 3rd grade is where it's at for fractions in my house. However, I will have to say that we began talking about fractions way before. So in today's video, I thought I'd put together some really great resources and some ideas and playing around with fractions at all different age levels, because you can start pretty young just to get familiar with some of the concepts, and you can go all the way up to doing math with fractions, which is what we're doing right now. So I want to give you some ideas. Let's talk about fractions, shall we? I think so. This video is super full, you guys. I have pulled together so many different resources for you guys. Some great products like this one here from Hand to Mind. I have some that are free, some free resources, and then all different age ranges. Like this one is for ages 3 and up, and then I have kind of the whole span because you can start talking about the concepts of fractions very early on. So this video is going to have a little bit of something for everybody. Starting off with this one, once again, Hand to Mind, amazing company, sent this to me to check out, and I am in love with it. Let me open this up and show you. Not only are you learning about fractions, the concept of fractions, you are actually learning about volume at the same time, but in a way that's very tactile. This actually stands up on a table because I'm filming above head, you guys. I'm not going to keep it up this way, but so you can see, but it does stand up and it's a very nice tool. So these are the measuring cups. In the middle here we have all the cups, and then we have on the side all of the labels, and they're color coordinated so you can always find the right spot. So we have 1/5, there's a hole down here. This side we have all the way up to 1/12, and all the corresponding measuring cups in the center. So you can always put them right back. So then look on the bottom, it tells you what they are. This is one whole. We have 1/2. This is a great exposure to what fractions are. You can use this on a sensory table. So what you can do is you can say how many will fill this 1 cup. Take it to your sensory table, play with sand, colored rice. Oh, that reminds me, I have a really good video on colored rice. If you want to learn how to color rice, this would be perfect for that. I'll put it up there in the corner, and that will take you to that video, or in the description box too. You can say how many of these 1/4 is it going to take to fill up the whole. You have them guess 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever they say, and then you're going to try an experiment. Scoop up that rice, scoop up that sand, put in 1, put in 2, put in 3, put in 4, and of course we all know it takes 4, because it's 1/4, to fill up the cup, right? 4/4. And then they can figure it out and experiment over and over again, whether or not they got it right or not, and play around to see what works. They get to be super smarty pants and you need to make it more difficult for them. You can bring out a different one. Okay, so we have a 1/2 here, and we have a 4. What will it take with these two to fill this up? And of course, as adults, we know it's going to take 1/2 and then 2 1/4 to fill it up. Really simple, really easy, and it's hands-on, and it's fun, and it's play, and they don't even realize that they're experimenting in that way. You can also play around with, you know, can you find the 1/2 and show me? Kind of like the Montessori method that they would do. Can you show me 1/4? And they would have to find the 1/4 and put it in the right spot. So this set is so much fun and a great visual of what fractions are, and especially how it relates to volume. And when you're done, they all just slide right back into the container. And then I also have to mention, of course, it comes with a great little starter guide too, and there's some activities in here to do with this, just to give you some ideas. Hand to Mind is great at doing that. So in that last activity, we talked about the basics of what the fractions are and a little bit on the names. And that's the next part, is really understanding what a fraction is. So inside here, I have Montessori 3-part cards. And you guys, this one is free. It's a free printable, of course. You know, I love those freebies. And then I actually laminated these. So I printed them out in regular cardstock paper, and that's why there's a huge glare on some of them. And I actually need to pick up some more because I have some in here that still need laminating, but that's another story, you guys. I don't laminate a lot, so I don't have a laminator. I actually use laminating pockets. And if you're like me and you only laminate here and there, you're not like a teacher that laminates everything, and you might want this as an option. So I'm going to put it down below, or maybe pop it up here on the screen somewhere so you can take a look at what they are, because they are fabulous. I love them. So I only use them every now and then. And this is one case that I definitely wanted to laminate to keep. So back to the 3-part cards. If you are not familiar with Montessori 3-part cards, then you need to be. I have a whole video on how to use them up up. I'll put up here in the corner again, another video, so that you can go get familiar with it, because that video is a primer and it sets you up for how to actually use the 3-part cards. But what they consist of is a main card, which is this one in this case, which has our visual representation and our label on the one card. So when you work with these cards, you can teach what 1/6 is of a whole. So we know this whole one is a whole. In fact, I think I have a whole card here somewhere. Oh, here's our whole. So we know that this is a whole, right? If we divide it up like this one into 6, then we have 6 segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can count with your child so that they understand that this one whole has 6 different segments in it. If we highlight 1 in red, that's 1 out of the 6, which is what we get, 1/6. So you have to have a little lesson explaining what that means. And of course, start off with simple ones when you're starting off, like for instance, a half here or a third, and then work your way all the way up to a 6. But I'm using the 6 for an example for you guys to show the cards. And then with Montessori 3-part cards, once you begin to recognize this, and they can point out, or you can say, can you show me which one is 1/6? And they can point it out. Once they know that, and then you know they understand the concept. Then they can also do matching. They'd find the second part to the 2-part cards. So then they would match that card, so they know that, and then they'd have to find the label. So I have my labels over here, and this is the label, and then they would properly label it. And with 3-part cards, you can also take away this card, because this is what helps to check their own answers. Then they can just do this on their own without this as their answer key. But what's really great about Montessori is that they like manipulatives. They really like to make things hands-on and tactile, which is where my little busy bag here comes into play. This is my fractions bag. You guys, I found these foam fractions at the Target dollar section. So this one is 1/4, and they have it printed on one side and then blank on the other. Here's a whole, we have 1/2. And now what you can do is model what's on the card and demonstrate what it is. So I'm putting them with no label side up, except for 1/6. I'm going to leave the label side up to show that it is 1/6. So this way is a very hands-on tactile way to demonstrate that you know what 1/6 is. At the dollar store, Dollar Tree, they do have this set. And I bought 2 of these because I thought I could use them for this video and some fraction practice. However, I do need to tell you, they only come with 3. So there's 3 in here. They're not labeled like the Target ones are, but you can label them with a Sharpie or with a Cricut even. And they're not the full set of fractions. So I think this might be 1/16. I'm not sure. We have 1/8 there, and this one is 1/2, and this one is 2 1/4. So what I would do is I would even get multiple of these if you can't find the Target ones, and you can cut them if you want to the shape that you need. Or I can try and find some on Amazon to link you to, and then I have some I'm going to show you in a minute that would also work for this activity too from Educational Insights. But back to the Montessori thing. You can even get rid of this main card and this card and just use the labels and do that sort of thing. Now I want to also say you can also use these cards later too. So after you're done learning the labels, learning what 1/6 means or whatever fraction means, you could use these for addition, for adding fractions, for subtracting fractions, and all that kind of stuff. So these cards will go a long way, all the way from the younger years all the way up. Love this set. Once again, it is a free printable and it's a must have. So I'm going to put that down below for you. Another free printable, pizza fractions, because who can't talk about fractions without talking about pizza, right? A free printable that is going to be linked down below for you guys, because I want you to get this. You might have to give your email address, but that's okay because it's worth it. So you can do this a couple different ways and depending on your needs. So we have several different sheets here. This one is all the way up to 1/4. So this will be your easiest one here. Then we got up to 2/4 to 1/5. We got fifths on this page, and then I actually cut some out. So a couple different ways, you guys. The first way, if you don't plan on reusing this, you can do it as a simple cut and paste, and that's by one sheet only and having them do one sheet at a time. So it's a little bit easier because you're not complicating it with having all of these cut out. So they would cut these out, paste them in the correct spot. If you like to make them last, which I know a lot of you guys do, you can cut them out individually and laminate them. And then you can use them as a busy bag card activity. And they would place their cards out. Once again, if you're starting off, be very easy. Don't go crazy giving them all the cards at once if they're not ready for it yet, right? And they would take their cards and then match them up to the correct pizza. And here we go. just like that. So it's a little bit of a take on that Montessori learning, but you're just manipulating the cards in a different way, and it's in the shape of a pizza. Speaking of pizza, speaking of food, Junior Learning, another great company that I love, sent me this one. It's food fractions, and it's just what it says on the box. You guys are gonna think this is adorable. What I love about this is that all of these are fractions made from food, and on the back they're magnetic. So you could put this on a dry erase board that's magnetic, your refrigerator, and you can play around with them that way. Kids love that kind of thing. Let's see what we got here in the box to check out. We have one watermelon, and they're all labeled too of what fraction they are. So we have a whole, we have a little bit of a donut here for 1/2. We even have different shapes. So where the Montessori cards and the other pizza cards I showed you, they're all circles, we have fractions demonstrated in different shapes. So here's a banana, but here it is cut in half, and it's not a circle, which I think is kind of a great thing. So you can see how things are divided, even if they're not in that circle shape. We even have a hot dog here that's divided into thirds. Oh, nope, that's a carrot. Let me see if I can find the other hot dog piece. Here it is on the bottom. So we have a third of a hot dog. Find that carrot later. We even have a waffle that's divided into 4. Here is a really cute sprinkle donut. I tend to like the donuts that have the sprinkles. We have pieces of chocolate, watermelon. We even have that pizza in here too. This has 129 pieces, and we have everything up to 1/12 in different shapes. Fun way to play with this is to play restaurant and say you would like a third of a hot dog or a half of a donut in your order, and then to make your order even more complicated as your child learns what each one is. Roll slide cover is another free printable. I told you I was going to hook you up with the free ones. So this will be listed down below that you can go and check out. This one, all you're going to need are some dice. So I got my little box of dice here I'm going to pick out. And then I'm actually going to use my lovely dollar store dry erase pocket. If you do not have this dry erase pocket, you're missing out, and you need to go get it like now. It is an essential, even if you're not homeschooling. It's just a great handy little guy to have. So you slip this in here, use your dry erase marker on here, and you can reuse this sheet over and over and over again. I know this says roll, slide, and cover, but I don't have anything to cover it. But you could use bingo chips, pieces of paper, manipulatives, whatever. But I'm going to use a dry erase marker to mark off. This is very, very simple. So this has representations of fractions up to the 6th. And what you do is you roll, and now you have 1/3. One die is the numerator and one is the denominator, and then you find that on your sheet and you mark it off until your whole sheet's covered. So I need 1/3. Here we are right here. 1/3. And you keep on rolling. Ooh, 4/4. I know that's a whole. And then we go over here to 4/4, and we got that one covered. Fun way to do something with a different type of manipulative with the dice, and you can reuse it over and over again. You can even play it a game, like a bingo game. That'd be a lot of fun. Now, I told you I was going to show you some larger foam fraction circles. So this is like, if you're going to invest in a good foam fraction circle set, this is amazing. This was sent to me by Educational Insight. It's recommended for ages 7 and up, grades 2 and up. But as you can see, you have your foam sheet in here, and each one is color coded, and then we have magnets on the back. Now, on the corners we have different numbers here. We have 100%, for example. This one down here is equals. We'll tear that off. We have 1 to mean a whole, and then 1 for decimals if you're learning decimals. And then we can take off the excess here, and now we have our 1. So you can see we have 9 sets included. So we go all the way up to 1/12. And then in addition to that, it provides you these little squares over here. So the target ones are just too basic for you and you want something that's more substantial. This is the one you're going to look at. So we also have little equal signs here to do some math problems. We have the fraction written out here just by itself. And then we have the decimal. And then we also have the percentage. So you can take this from really early years on and learning about fractions all the way on up until doing the fractions and percentages, which is usually the last thing that's learned. Everything's also color coordinated, so the small squares also match to the larger fractions, and then everything is magnetic. So if I were to put these aside here, you can do really simple labeling with your squares. You can use the one whole and add on your other ones on top to demonstrate what makes a whole, or you could use the other pieces to see which fractions all together make that whole. You can use those little square pieces to show equivalencies. So you could My workspace is a little messy here. Show that this equals. Another great manipulative, very nice size as well. If you're teaching in a classroom and you're a teacher, this is great for your classrooms because it's really big and can be seen far away. You're really exploring equivalency in your fractions and doing it in another tactile way. And I do like that all these little extra pieces come into play, especially when you're talking about fractions and decimals. Next up, I have a free printable that is Fractions Secret Code, which is a lot of fun because it's kind of a mystery seek and find kind of thing. So up here we have our key, and each fraction pie up here has a letter assigned to it. So when you come down here, you see the numerical form. So we have 2/8. So you have to find which one of these is 2/8 and find the corresponding letter and plop it in here to find out the secret message. This is a free printable. I'm going to put it down below as I've been saying. And there's several in here. Let's see, there's 1, 2, I think 3. Yeah, 3. So 3 puzzles that you can work on. Print these out, and it's just a fun way to kind of really reinforce what all of these fractions are and to learn a fun secret message. This set is from Learning Resources. It's the Deluxe Fraction Tower Activity Set, ages 5 and up. So they're saying for kindergarten and up, you guys, which I think is fabulous to kind of introduce them. So it has 51 interlocking fraction cubes. So it starts at a whole and goes all the way up to 1/12. And it has 12 double-sided activity cards, a fraction tower base, and an activity guide. And of course, it's in rainbow colors, which is my favorite. Right here is our base, okay? So this is what would stand up to teach or you're learning with your kids. And it has this great base on here where all of your fraction cubes can go into the bottom there. And then your cards will slide right in here on the top. Here are the cards, and they're activity cards that have all kinds of different things to learn and concepts on them. And they tell you what the concept is up here. So this one's comparing mixed number fractions. You can divide fractions, subtract with fractions and mixed numbers. Let's take this first one, which was equivalent fractions, and it just slides right into our base. And then you can put the extra cards on the back so it all stands in one unit. And because we're doing this video overhead, I will just turn this over so you can see it. Here are our cubes, and they're actually labeled each one. So we have 1/5 here, so they just pull apart, and each one represents 1/5. And then we go all the way from 1 whole, 1/2, third. And then we also have our activity guide, which provides you some different activities to do, some learning objectives, vocabulary, and how to do them, and then kind of works you through all of the cards that's applied to you. So we have our equivalent fractions up here on our sample card, and there's little directions on here. It says equivalent fractions are fractions that describe the same amount. Build each tower below its letter. So there's letter activities up here, A through E, which match the columns. So we go for letter A. Use yellow and blue pieces to build a tower equal to the red pieces, the whole. So here's our whole. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in our base. And that's our sample. So I need to use the yellow and blue pieces. So your child will take the yellow and they'll take the blue and they'll try to equate the whole. So we know this one is 1 whole. So we have to use some of these to create it. So there's 2 ways. We can take off 1/4 and add 2/8. So now we're showing that 2/8 and 3/4 are going to equal a whole. Great visual way to do this. Great tactile, hands-on way of building equivalent fractions. Let's just show you another one. Letter B says use green and purple pieces to build a tower equal to 1 whole. Green and purple. So let's take off 2/5 and add 4/10, and that would be equivalent to 1 whole. So you can definitely see how you can get the variety of learning equivalency and fractions on this card. Here's a dividing fraction example. So it says how many 1/12 can go into 3/4. There's 2 problems here. So first we have problem A that has 3/4 on here. So we'll find our fourths, which are our yellow cubes, and we need 3 of them. Put that into our base, and it matches up. Divided by 1/12. So I want to know how many 1/12 can go into 3/4. So I'm going to need to find my 12ths, and your child can compare the sizes to find the answer and count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you can use the activity cards to guide you through things, but then you can also play with these on their own and compare things side by side, build out fractions with these in the number rod situation. Another freebie worksheet linked down below as always. So on this one we have our fractions listed on this side, and then we have the drawing portion here, and then we write the whole number over here. So we're going to shade these these pieces to represent the fraction. So we go all the way up to different ones on here, and then down here we actually draw them on our own and then write them in on the end. This sheet comes with it, and this one comes with the circles, and you have to divide them up on your own. So a little bit more difficult in that sense. Another way to reinforce that includes the coloring and drawing versus just writing. So I thought that was something fun to include. We'll put this one down below too. I found these fraction dice online. Definitely a must-have. I'm all about these different dice finds, and I love these. I found them in time. I found them in operations. In fact, here's the operations one. This has 12ths, 8ths, 5ths, 3rds, 6 quarters, and half. So you can see all the different fractions right on them. So this can be a lot of fun where you can actually roll one. And then remember that fraction set that I showed you, the fraction circles, this set right here. You can do a seek and find to find the 1/8, which is actually right here on the top, and to find the 1/8 piece out of your fractions. You can roll and even use those number rods. Remember the number rods, and finding which one is the 3rd and matching that way. Very simple, very easy. Once you get a little bit more knowledgeable about fractions, you can use those fraction circles or the fraction rods, and you can play a game called Roll to a Hole. So we have one hole here, and that would be your piece, and you would roll to fill up your hole. So in this case, I rolled a 1/8, so I get 1/8 block. Roll again. You can even do this with somebody else. I have 1/4, so I'd find 1/4 block, add that to my 1/8, roll again, or if you're rolling with somebody else, they can take a turn, and then the first person to get to one hole wins 1/2, and it looks like I made one hole. Another fun way is to use those operation dice. This has all kinds of things on it: multiplication, equals, greater than, less than, minus, subtraction, division, multiplication, has it all. So you use this for a lot of different activities. So you could take the greater than, less than one, take 2 of your fraction dice. In this case, we got 1/4 and 1/5, which is greater than or equal than. Well, I don't know, I'm the student, so then I can take my blocks and can compare the size, or you can use those fraction circles that I showed you earlier. Those would work too, and see that 1/4 is bigger than 1/5, so I can complete my problem that way. And then of course, once you get into the more difficult things with adding, subtracting, and dividing with fractions, you can use the other dice to, add or subtract or play games in that way. So these are a lot of fun. Moving right along to another free printable. This is fractions on a number line, which is also great to use with the rods too. So that's why I wanted to print it out and show it to you, because it's free, but then also because you can use it with something like the number rods to demonstrate. So it actually has the number rods printed out on here, and it has the fraction. So you're supposed to color in the fraction bar to represent the fraction, but you can also use it visually here and building it out. So you have a tactile way before you actually do it. And then you label the fraction on the number line. This one I liked a lot too, that also comes with it, is that there's a cut and paste down here that's essentially doing the same thing. So you have another tactile way of learning cut and paste. So I wanted to mention that that also comes in that packet. Great to use with these number rods, just another way to extend the number rods if you plan on purchasing something like this, because it'll take it that much further. Haven't really talked about flashcards, and of course those are a great affordable option too. I found these and I thought I'd try them out. There's 54 fraction flashcards in here, and since we're talking about extending the manipulatives a little bit further, I thought this would be a good tool to show you guys exist. So for example, here we have some wholes and halves and all kinds of different fractions on the card. So you can use these like flashcards if you want, hold them up, have your kid say what they are on their own, and on the back is the answer, or you can have them visually show you. So I liked these because they have a really good representation of some fractions, but what you can do is you can do a copy. So maybe you pick a card. Here's 1/5. So you can use something like your fraction circles to have a hole and then to show 1/5 on top of that. Or you can do greater than and less than by having 2 fractions on here, which one is more or less. And they actually have in the back here cards that are greater than, less than already printed for you. And so you can use this card and do that same thing that I showed you with the number rods by showing 2/5 and 1/5, and then 2 is greater than 1, and then using the card to demonstrate that way. And if you're getting really good, you can turn them over, have your child pull those in the number rods, or even demonstrate with your fraction circles. So here's 2/5, here's 1/5, which is more, it's the 2/5. because I'm showing you all these great manipulatives. I want to give you some ideas on how to extend it a little bit further, especially if you plan on getting a set of these. I real quick wanted to mention, speaking of flashcards, this one is called Fraction War, which is a really fun fraction game if you played War before. And it comes with all of these cards. And you can do this, actually, you can do the same game with these fraction cards, but these are just a little bit different because they're showing you on the number rod situation. That's why I got them, just because they're not showing you in the pie form. Again, another tool that you could use with those number bars really easily when you're demonstrating. Or you can play the game War. Each player has a stack of cards. Each one of you turns over a card, and whoever has the higher fraction wins that round of war, and you gain the most cards and win. So just another way to emphasize greater than or less than in your fraction play. But then you can also use these cards with those tools, especially because it's demonstrating those bars there. So another fun one. Great resource from Junior Learning. Another one before I get to one of my ultimate favorite ones that I'm going to show you. This one is a flip chart, and it stands up. You just have to unfold it. I have it laying flat here for video, but you can stand it up as a chart. This one has the fraction, decimal, percentage, and shape on it. So what you can do is flip these over and see all the different forms and find the correct ones and do it in 4 different ways, the fraction in 4 different ways. This obviously is not the same fraction, but you get what I'm trying to say. On the back side, we have the fraction written out, the name written out in word form. We have the shape, and then we have it in animal. So it actually will count out the fractions and circle what the fraction is, so you can see it visually that way too. So what you can do is flip over any one of these. Let's say you just flipped over this shape. You can say, okay, what is this in the fraction form? And so then the person would have to go and find the 2/3. And then, okay, what is that 2/3? Well, let's find the name. 1/3. 2/3. There's 2/3. And now we need to find it in our animal form. So I like this flip chart just because it's kind of a different take on everything and kind of fun way to kind of flip through and to find things in different visual ways, because fractions can be represented in those different ways. And then we have the more difficult side here with the decimals and percentages, especially when we reach that. We haven't gotten to that part yet, so this isn't of interest to me just yet. I might have to do a part 2 on fractions for you guys just for the decimals and percentages. But it's a really cool way to look at fractions in different ways and just a really simple flip chart way. This one I think is my favorite, and then I do have something else to show you too. This one I bought myself. This one is from Educational Insights, and it's called Fraction Formula Game, and it's for 2 to 4 players ages 8 and up. Let me show you what it comes with. We have these little test tubes here, and that's actually what we're going to be filling up in our game. And these do stand up. They're like little beakers, so they do stand. And then we have all of our little cylinder pieces, and these cylinder pieces are labeled. So we have 1/4, here's 1/3, we have 1/12, 1/6, and so on. Then we have these scoring cards, fraction formula scoring cards, and they have our points on them. And then these are our fraction cards that have our fractions on them. So the object of the game is whoever gets closest to one hole, which is this cylinder, without going over, and earns the most points in one round wins. So it's very simple. We just put all of these pieces standing up here in the center of the gameplay. You take turns and you draw a fraction from the top of the deck. And so I would get 1/2, so I'd have to find the 1/2, which is right here, and I would drop it into my own cylinder. So now I have a choice of whether I want to continue or to pass and just hold on this. Now remember, the other players have an opportunity to do the same. So I could say, I'm going to draw again. So I'm going to draw again, but I can't go over. So I'm going to draw, and I have 1/8. So I have to find 1/8. Here's my 1/8 piece, and I can put it in. Once again, I can stay or keep on going. And then the round continues until everybody's played. And then whoever is closest to 1 without going over, because we can compare, wins the points. And there's different points assigned according to whether or not you came in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th place. And so the more points you win after 4 rounds wins the game. So very, very simple, very easy, and a great way of seeing if you're going to go over the 1. But then if you're not playing the game, you could also use this to build fractions, right? Just like the other set I showed you. You can use the flashcards in the same way. So you can take it even further other than just the game that they've set up. But playing this game is really fun too. You can use these alone to try to build to 1. You can compare different fraction sizes when you have them inside of which one's bigger or smaller. So I'm sure you can see why this one is a Purple Alphabet favorite. Last but certainly not least, this one was sent to me by Educational Insights. It's the See and Solve Fraction Calculator, and I have never seen anything like this. So it shows how to solve fractions step by step. They recommend it for grade 2nd and up too. So what it's doing is taking complicated fraction calculations and simplifying them. So you press the numerator and the denominator key to input a fraction problem, and then the display actually shows it as a fraction. And then there's little lighted keys that guide you through the steps to to solve it. There's even special keys on here to reduce a fraction or change it to a mixed number, an improper fraction, decimal, or even a percentage. So it's a little bit of a fraction tutor is what they call it. So the N represents the numerator, the D represents the denominator, and then you push step so you see the next step, and then enter to see the final answer. This little button here that says I arrow M, it converts between a mixed number and an improper fraction. This little simplify button reduces fractions to the lowest terms. And this little button here, if you need to see the step again, it's a flashing arrow and it will replay it over for you. So if you're working on problems and you need some help, if you're working on problems and you want to know the correct answer, this is a good way to check your work really easily. So I thought that was a pretty cool tool to check out. I have never seen anything like this before, and I thought it was pretty unique. I'm gonna put a link down to everything that I've showed you down below in the description box. You can go right to it and check it out, especially if you wanna add something to your homeschool, or maybe you just wanna do a fun activity with your kids. I got you covered. Check down below. You guys click subscribe to see more videos like this and give me a thumbs up to show your love.